The rain had started before dawn, tapping softly against the kitchen window while Daniel Brooks poured himself a cup of coffee. It was a gray, wet morning in Seattle, the kind that blurred the city's edges and made everything look slightly out of focus. He liked mornings like this. They made the world quiet, almost gentle. But not today. Today, the silence felt wrong. He stood by the sink, staring through the misted glass at the narrow backyard. The wet branches of the maple tree trembled, and somewhere in the distance, he heard the faint hum of early traffic heading toward the I-5. But what he noticed most was the absence of sound upstairs: no hairdryer, no hurried footsteps, no light humming that usually accompanied Emily's morning routine. She was never this quiet. Daniel frowned and checked the clock. 7:32 a.m. She was late. Emily was always out the door by 7:15. He took a sip of his coffee, but the taste was bitter. He set the mug down and walked to the bottom of the stairs. He called softly. No answer. He climbed up, his hand brushing the railing. The bedroom door was slightly open, and when he pushed it wider, he saw her sitting on the edge of the bed, fully dressed, coat on, phone in hand, staring blankly at the screen. "You okay?" he asked. Emily jumped slightly, as if he'd startled her. Then she smiled, too quickly. "Yeah. Just, running late. Got an early meeting." Daniel nodded, but his eyes lingered on her phone. She tilted it away from him without thinking, then stood and kissed him lightly on the cheek. Her lips were cool, perfunctory. "I'll be home around 6, she said, heading for the door. He followed her downstairs, watching as she grabbed her purse and keys. Her perfume, a light jasmine scent, trailed behind her, blending with the damp air of the morning. The front door shut. And Daniel was left alone with a quiet that felt heavier than rain. At first, Daniel didn't want to admit anything was wrong. They'd been married for 9 years, built a comfortable life together, a modest 2-story house in Capitol Hill, decent jobs, dinner with friends on weekends. Sure, they had their arguments, over money, over her long work hours, over when to start a family, but what couple didn't? Still, something had changed. Emily had started staying late at work more often, client dinners, she said, or strategy meetings. She worked in marketing, and Daniel knew the schedule could be unpredictable. But lately, her absences had grown more frequent, and when she came home, she was distant, distracted. He tried to convince himself it was stress. She'd been angling for a promotion, after all. But then there was her phone. She kept it face down on the table. She took it with her when she went to shower. And once, when it buzzed late at night, Daniel reached for it, instinctively, only for Emily to grab it first. "Work thing," she said too quickly, her voice flat. "Go back to sleep." The following Sunday, they had dinner with their neighbors, a young couple, Greg and Marissa. The evening was pleasant enough, wine, laughter, small talk. But Daniel noticed something strange when Emily's phone lit up mid-conversation. She glanced at it, smiled faintly, and locked the screen. "Who was that?" he asked later, half joking, as they drove home through the drizzle. "Just someone from work," she replied. Her tone was light, but her eyes didn't meet his. That night, lying in bed, Daniel stared at the ceiling. The rain whispered against the windows, and he felt something in his chest, a dull ache, like a slow bruise forming. He turned his head and looked at her. Emily was facing away, her breathing even, steady. And yet, even in sleep, she looked somewhere else. By early November, Daniel's suspicion had hardened into quiet paranoia. He didn't confront her, not yet. He wasn't sure what to say. "I think you're lying to me," wasn't a conversation he wanted to start without proof. Instead, he started noticing small things. A faint trace of cologne that wasn't his. The way she checked her hair before work dinners. The half-second delay before answering certain questions. And then, one night, while folding laundry, he found it, a hotel receipt tucked into her coat pocket. Hotel Theodore. Downtown. Room 412. 2 nights ago. His hands froze. The paper trembled between his fingers, the print faint but undeniable. She came home 20 minutes later, her hair damp from the rain, cheeks flushed from the cold. She kissed him on the forehead. Long day, she sighed, hanging her coat. Daniel stared at her coat, that coat, and forced a smile. Yeah, he said softly. You look tired. Inside, his heart felt like a cracked glass ready to shatter. The next morning, Daniel couldn't concentrate at work. He worked as a systems analyst at a small tech firm near South Lake Union, but all he could see were numbers turning into fragments of suspicion. At lunch, he called the hotel. Hi, this is Daniel Brooks. My wife and I stayed there recently, but I lost the receipt. Can you confirm the dates for me? The receptionist paused, then said, Sure, Mr. Brooks. Could you spell the last name? He did. There was a click of keys, then another pause. I do see a reservation under Emily Brooks, she said. Check in November 4th, one night. But there's another name listed on the booking, a Michael Reed. Daniel's throat went dry. Right. Thanks, he murmured, hanging up before his voice broke. That night, Daniel looked up Michael Reed online. Emily had mentioned him once, her new client from Portland. He was handsome, mid-30s, a marketing director for a sportswear brand. There were photos of him at conferences, smiling, confident. Daniel closed the laptop, his stomach twisting. At midnight, when Emily finally came home, he was sitting in the dark living room. You didn't tell me you stayed at a hotel last week, he said quietly. She froze. What? Hotel Theodore. Room 412. Her lips parted slightly, a flash of panic, quickly replaced by composure. It was a business meeting, she said. The client. Michael Reed? She flinched. The silence stretched. Rain fell harder outside, drumming against the windows. Finally, she whispered, Daniel, please don't do this tonight. He stared at her, the woman he thought he knew better than anyone, and realized how far away she already was. For the next week, they moved through the house like ghosts. Emily slept in the guest room. Daniel went through the motions, work, coffee, emails, but everything felt unreal, like he was walking underwater. Then one evening, he saw her car parked downtown near a restaurant. She had told him she was working late again. He parked a block away and waited. Through the rain-smeared windshield, he saw her, laughing, leaning across the table. Opposite her sat Michael Reed. When Michael reached across the table and brushed a strand of hair from her face, Daniel's chest constricted so tightly he could barely breathe. He didn't confront them. He just watched, until the laughter blurred through his tears and the city lights turned into streaks of pain. She came home after midnight, shoes in hand, rain dripping from her coat. Daniel was waiting. Was it worth it? He asked, voice trembling. All the lies. Her face drained of color. You followed me. Just once, he said. I needed to see the truth. Emily's lips quivered, but she didn't deny it. She sat down, her shoulders shaking. I didn't plan for it to happen, she whispered. I was lonely, Daniel. You were always, somewhere else. Work. Your screens. Your silence. He stared at her, disbelief and grief warring inside him. So that's your excuse? No, she said softly. It's my mistake. He turned away, because looking at her hurt too much. I'll pack my things in the morning, she said, tears in her voice. Don't bother, Daniel said quietly. I'll be gone by then. He moved out a week later, renting a small apartment near Lake Union. The city felt colder than ever, gray water, gray skies, gray thoughts. But at least the silence was honest now. He heard from mutual friends months later that Emily and Michael didn't last. Maybe that should have comforted him, but it didn't. Some things break and stay broken. On rainy mornings, he still thought about her, the sound of her laugh, the smell of her perfume, the way the house felt alive when she was in it. But he also remembered the look in her eyes that night, distant, already gone. And so, he let her go too. Nearly a year later, he received a letter in the mail. Her handwriting. Daniel. I don't expect forgiveness. I only wanted to say I'm sorry. You didn't deserve what I did. You were good to me, steady, kind, patient, and I broke that. I think about that every day. If it matters, I loved you. Maybe still do. Emily. He folded the letter and looked out the window. The rain was falling again, soft, endless, familiar. And for the first time in months, Daniel smiled, not from happiness, but from release. Under the Seattle rain, he finally felt clean again.